Welcome back to another episode of r/slash idontworkherelady, where we share stories about normal people or actual customers that are mistaken for employees at that establishment. In our first story, it comes from you/local librarian, and the name of the story is Yeah, I Work There, Not Here, aka The Strange Story of Kiddo. This happened back around 2004, so obviously the conversations won't be exact. Bit of a background. The library I worked at had regular story times for kids split into different age groups. A story, maybe an activity, and some kind of snack, maybe juice boxes for after. Parents would usually hang out at the back of the room by the snacks during the story, but some would go into the main library to look for things while the kids did their thing. I helped out once in a while. One of the kids, I'm calling him Kiddo, would come in. He looked to be on the older end of the pre-K 4 to 5 year olds group. Instead of sitting down for the story, he would head straight for the snacks. Sometimes the mama bears would send him off to the story. Sometimes he'd just wander off a bit after being told he couldn't have snacks until after the story. But he developed a strange habit, almost like an error reset mode. If the mama bears told him no snacks, he'd do the full Scooby head tilt and the WTF look, then plop his little butt down where he was and scream, "Mommy!" in the high pitched tone that makes dogs run away in pain. After a minute or two, he would be back to normal, but Mommy would never show. We just figured she was out in the main library and couldn't hear him. So, on to the story. One day, the library is closed for whatever holiday, and I head to the local grocery store because weekday equals less crowds. Just as I'm turning down the cereal aisle and looking forward to getting a new box of Captain Crunch, don't judge, I see him. Kiddo. One of his grubby little paws was buried in an open box of one of those super sweet cereals that only kids can tolerate. I don't see Mommy around anywhere, so something like the following happens. Me. "Hey, Kiddo, you know you're not supposed to do that at the grocery store, right?" Kiddo looks up, sees me, pulls his sticky cereal covered hands out of the box and gestures in my direction. "I know you. You work at the library. That means you gotta be nice to me." And proceeds to stuff another fistful of cereal in his mouth. I look back at him. Me. "Well, yeah, I work at the library. And when you're there, as long as you follow the rules and don't make trouble, I try to be nice to you. But we're not at the library, are we?" As soon as I see the head tilt, I know what's coming. I move on, thinking to myself, please, dear God, let me get my Captain Crunch and get out of here. But nope, not fast enough. Just as I'm grabbing that red box of crunchy goodness, I hear it. Plop. "Mommy!" Much to my surprise, no Mommy. Kid yells for Mommy again, but still, nothing. By this time, he's attracted the attention of a store employee going by. SE tells me I'm going to have to pay for the box of cereal that my kid is stuffing in his face. Took me a second, but I realized she thinks Kiddo is my kid. Much to my surprise, I'm actually able to explain that Kiddo is not my kid. I have no clue who or where Mommy is, and that I've seen him do this at the library too. SE and I get the same idea about the same time. You think maybe he... Wouldn't surprise me. Mommy never shows at the library either. SE manages to get Kiddo to go off with her, still clutching the box of cereal, and that's the last time I ever saw Kiddo. About a week later, I go back in the store and see the same SE near the customer service desk. She tells me that they looked at their security footage and it seems like someone, camera didn't get a clear shot, had dropped Kiddo off at the store and taken off. He'd been there for over an hour before I ran into him. Store called police, police tracked down Mommy, etc., etc. Her excuse was that she had to work and the library was closed, so where else was she supposed to leave him? And there's lots of food at the grocery store, so it's not like he was going to starve. I don't know whatever happened to Kiddo. I just hope he ended up in a better situation. Now this is a big OMG. I know that's 2004, and here 15 plus years later, and CPS would have definitely been called on this. I don't know what parent would just let their kids somewhere that young just to be off on their own. That is crazy, crazy, crazy. But that's the life we were living in. Hopefully things have changed by now. Our next story, I was mistaken for a Walmart employee. Okay, so I'm pretty sure we have all gone to Walmart at least once in our lives, and I'm also sure we all know the employees there have vests that say Walmart on them. I was at work at a sporting goods store that has a pretty strict dress code for guys. It was dress pants or black pants with dress shirts or solid color polos and a blue lanyard with the company name on it and my first name. RL equals random lady, W equals Walmart employee. While at work, I got a phone call from my mom, and she asked me if I could stop by the Walmart by the store since it was basically right around the corner. I said yes, and at the end of my shift, I was on my way. I only had to get two things, a special spice, I can't remember, for tacos, and disposable plates because we were going to have a party the next day, Saturday. I was wearing a red dress shirt, black dress pants, and the only blue I had on my person was the lanyard. As I was reading the packages to figure out which one I had to get, I hear a lady give that cough to get your attention, but I just slide over a bit to let her get her whatever she needed. Then, as if me sliding over was rude, she said, "Excuse me," and started going off on me and telling me how rude I was, ignoring a customer. She didn't let me get a word out at all until an actual employee who was just about 10 feet away sees this all going down, and he walks over asking, "What's the problem?" And she turns and tells him, "RL, this employee is being rude by ignoring me after I tried to get his attention. W, I'm sorry, but he doesn't work here. Walmart employees have blue or yellow vests, and all he has is a blue lanyard." She then turns to me and tells me with an attitude, "RL, well, you shouldn't wear things like that if you don't want to be confused for an employee." Then she turns to the employee and starts talking to him, and I'm just standing there dumbfounded. I decide I'll just leave, and before I can leave the aisle, I'm half stopped by another employee, and he takes me to the checkout aisle and apologizes for the lady's rude behavior and gave me a coupon to use on my transaction. And the next story comes from u/ablesmage. Line forms to ask person who doesn't work there. Here's a quick, light-hearted one I had a fun chuckle about. I'm a DSD/pull-up vendor who has posted a few times before. Briefly, my job is a little like a mailman in the sense that the place I'm going to deliver, I don't work for. People who stock bread, snack cakes, beer, crackers and cookies, sodas, chips, and a host of other things are all people like me who don't work for the actual supermarket, do actually stock something, so the confusion does seem reasonable to me. Despite being dressed differently, I still get 10 to 20, oopsie, sorry, I don't work here lady incidents per day, but Karens are pretty rare at least. I'm generally understanding if someone mistakes me, and most of the interactions are quick, simple, oopsie interactions. I was a few months into the job, and realizing I would be having lots of these encounters per day, I started to think of ways I could drop the news easy because some people's reaction was like I startled them, and I wanted to avoid giving off an impression that I was aggravated. I decided at one point that I would try to explain what I do so more people would understand it better, and discovered on this day why that was not the best idea. I was walking down the main aisle to get back to my normal stocking aisle when someone mistook me in the classic oops encounter, and I took a brief moment to explain what I do in a few sentences but tend to ramble, as I love the job. However, this was during a holiday rush during the Christmas-ish season, so people asking questions of people were far more common. After getting done with the first person, I looked over, and I guess I had rambled enough that a line had formed of 6 to 7 other shoppers waiting, I assumed, to ask me where something was. I tried to just duck out of my head of the line position. The next person spoke up and was like, "But I just need," and I interrupted them saying, "I'm not with the store, dear. I was just trying to explain that to the first person." The rest of the line's ears perked up when a lady who was next seemed to plead me for an answer, but upon hearing the news and that they'd line up for no reason, they dispersed with deep sighs, and I resumed my route duties. And this happens far, far, far too often, where all of a sudden you're at whether if it's a grocery store, at the mall, or somewhere, and all of a sudden there's a long line that starts to form and you just hurry up and get in line, not knowing what it's for. And that's what I did on one Black Friday at a Best Buy store, where people were just grabbing stuff, and I was like, okay, let me just grab it too, not knowing what it was. So it just happens so often. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 great stories. They're getting funnier and funnier and funnier. Do us a huge favor and in your comments below, not only give us a thumbs up, but also let us know which of these 3 stories were your favorites and why, so we can kind of get the conversation going. Once again, this has been TNA, Top Notch Audio. Have yourself a great day. And make sure that you subscribe and share this with others.